Who are the best FPL Game Week 25 captains? My name is Benji, and 25 is another double, just like last week. In 24, we got 58 points from Salah Cap. That's the biggest haul we've gotten all season, but this time around, Mo's got a little bit of competition, as Ollie Watkins also has a double. Will Salah's overperformance from last week impact his placing in this week's rankings? Let's find out. Thinking Cap activated. I did have my triple captain active on Salah, but because we learned about double game week 25 just 30 hours before the game week 24 deadline, I deactivated and played another chip. If you want to find out exactly why I did that, check out this video right here. But I'm still pretty satisfied with last week's results. Even my wildcard captain in DA returned decent points. The shortlist for 25 is smaller than usual, but that's because both Watkins and Salah have decent fixtures in the double, so this week they're the only premiums to qualify for analysis. In terms of fixture spacing and rest, Watkins comes into the Ipswich game after having 14 days recovery. That's way more than Salah, who's just played midweek in the Merseyside derby, but Mo hasn't travelled in almost 3 weeks, as he was excellently rotated in the 24 double by Arnie Slot. The spacing for Liverpool in 25 is much tighter, but despite that, I still expect Salah to start both and get past the 75th minute mark in both as well. Because Emery has a few attackers available, I'm going for the Watkins early sub against Ipswich. Against Liverpool, I expect him to play the full 90 minutes, so yeah, Watkins may have an edge in rest and recovery, but Salah's projected to play more minutes. Let's take a look at historical fixture performance, starting with Ollie, who shockingly has a better points history against Liverpool at home than he does against promoted teams at home. Watkins has never produced a double-digit haul against a promoted side at Villa Park in his Premier League career, which is shocking. He's blanked in 45% of starts against promoted sides at home, which is another concern, but it's a big positive that Watkins has performed so well in the tougher fixture for the 25 double. He's blanked just 1 in 4 against Liverpool at home, and in his first start against them, he returned a massive 19-pointer. That came in that crazy 7-2 game a few years back, but generally, Ollie does like big games, and certainly he hasn't really found it too difficult to produce in such a tough fixture. Salah boasts the best double-digit haul rate on offer. He's delivered 10 or more points in 50% of starts against Villa away and versus Wolves at home. He's returned in each of his last 3 starts against Wolves as well. So Salah doesn't really have a ton of starts in this comparison, so his handful of explosive hauls in these fixtures definitely gives him a little bit of an edge over Ollie as we head into fixture analysis. Even though Watkins has an excellent historical record against Liverpool, we can't ignore the strength of Slot's back line. They sit top 2 in the league from a defensive data perspective, and 100% is the toughest fixture on paper in the double. Ipswich looked slightly more targetable than Wolves, averaging a few more shots on target conceded and big chances conceded per game. They're also making over 1 defensive error per game, but considering the strength of Liverpool's attack and the fact that Villa are without Pau Torres and Konza for both fixtures, it does boost the targetability of Emery's defense, meaning the double is better for Salah. Both Villa and as well as Wolves have conceded the highest volume of chances down the right zone compared to any of the other zones of those guys' defenses, so Salah really has a primetime matchup in terms of chances conceded, where those chances have been conceded in both of the games, and he definitely has the better set of fixtures in 25. Salah continues to impress as he not only looks to be the better cap on the weekend, but also in the midweek fixture. Salah returned in 5 out of his last 5 Sunday kickoffs at home, with 3 out of 5 being double-digit hauls. Compare that to Watkins, who's produced just 1 haul in the last 5 Saturday starts at home, and it does look increasingly difficult to back against Mo. However, when we look at the midweek profiles, Ollie does bounce back a little bit. He's on a 4-game return streak in midweek home fixtures, and in his last 2 starts, he managed 2 double-digit hauls. So there's a few positives with Watkins' dataset, but my real concern are his double-digit haul rates. The percentages, they're in the sub-20s. It's just really hard for him to compete with a bonus monster midfielder who's targeting the all-time GA record, so it's a bit tough for him. Let's still check the game time performance stats to see if there's anything there, and Watkins does really impress me in both late night kickoffs at home and in the 3 PMs at home, where he's been extremely consistent. A 17% blank rate is absurd, but unfortunately Salah's blank rate in 2 PM home fixtures is the exact same. On top of that, Salah averages more points per start and once again offers bigger explosive potential with a 33% haul rate compared to Ollie's sitting at 17. But form is important, something we should consider, and Salah's form isn't the greatest in 2 o'clocks at home, just 1 double-digit return in his last 5, which isn't much different to Watkins in the 3 o'clocks, but Watkins managed to pick up a few more bonus in his last 5, which gives him a slight edge in points form. Comparing late night game performance, and Mo Salah has a slight edge this time around, most averaging more points and has been more explosive, but Ollie's offered more consistency with a 10% blank rate lower than Salah's 55%. He's 10% lower. So it's decent. He is a little bit more consistent, but Salah's offering more explosive potential. They're tied on points form in late night kickoffs. They're offering the exact same return rate in the midweek kickoffs. And considering how dominant Salah's captaincy profile is for this week, he retains first place on my 25 rankings for a second week in a row. He's just more explosive. His overall league form is insane. It's better, and he's projected to play more minutes than Watkins throughout the double. I also prefer Liverpool's fixtures than compared to Villa's, because that Villa defense is extremely targetable. The only place where Salah loses a little really is rest and recovery, as well as the fact that Watkins looks a little bit more consistent based off his historical records in each fixture, as well as Watkins' blank rates across both kickoff data comparisons. But Salah hasn't traveled at all. He doesn't have much travel fatigue, despite playing, what looks to be a pretty quick turnaround. He's actually had 6 days rest before Everton, then 7 days rest before Bournemouth, didn't travel in the Spurs game, didn't travel to Plymouth. So I don't think he's fatigued at all, and I do expect Slot to shave his minutes slightly against Wolves, which will keep him a little bit fresher in the long term. That's a good thing. Now, I'm not triple captaining this week because I can't do it for my O team. I already have AM active, but if you do have TC left, I would go for it if you can play it this week. It's the last opportunity to triple cap Salah this season. He's not projected to have another double, and you're triple captaining him in searing red hot form before 2 fixtures in the same game week with vulnerable defenses. I don't see any TC opportunities in future doubles that look so much better that you have to save the chip. So if you can, I'd go for TC25, but for my model, it's not going to be counting. But for sure, TC25 on Salah is ThinkingCap approved. I'm also expecting his EO to be a little bit bigger than what it was in 24, just because I think every manager who can play it and still has that chip will use it this week. I know a lot of people didn't use it last week so that they could use it on him in 25, which is why I've got his EO over 220. Watkins in second, if he's fit, I think he's a really, really good pick for the double, but in terms of captaincy, he just can't compete with Mo. It's a decent double for him. It's just the xMinutes, lack of explosivity, and the fact that midfielder captaincy is just absolutely dominating this season. And, he hasn't been that good against promoted teams at home. I don't really see too much upside in that fixture. Now, of course, he can break this inexplosive streak he's been on, and I expect him to do that in the future, but I'm not sure it's coming now. In third, I've got Cole Palmer away to Brighton. They've got Lewis Dunk, likely to miss this game through injury, with Igor Julio, who's the third choice center back, also on the sidelines. I think this defense is really targetable. I think Palmer's going to play a little bit higher, a little bit more in the box, more box touches, more shots on target, and I think it's really good for him. It's a good fixture. Late night kickoff as well on a Friday just feels really nice for Coley. My Gameweek 25 wildcard captain is Morgan Rogers. In the off chance Ollie isn't deemed fit by Unai Emery, I expect Rogers to take pens, and I think Rogers' minutes in both matches, his expected minutes, look quite strong. That's why I think he's a good option. I think he's due a big haul, and if you want to take a massive risk to try and earn the big boy rewards, I do think Morgan Rogers is someone you should consider for captaincy. If you enjoyed this one, then drop a like on the video, hit subscribe, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.